I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 1, Twin Sisters. Chapter 1 Twin Sisters. Huizhou Prefecture, Shi County. At night, the streets and alleys are quiet, and occasionally you can hear the barking of dogs. The Song family suddenly broke into a group of officials. The leader of the official claimed that the medicinal materials sold by the Song family to the Northwest Army were of inferior quality and caused death, so he was ordered to search the house and question the crime. It's bad. Water is leaking in the backyard. Quickly put out the fire. The eldest lady and the second lady are still in the house. Help. The Song family was in chaos, and there were cries everywhere. An ordinary carriage came out of the alley next to Song's house and hurried towards the city gate. Inside the carriage, Song Jin hugged her concubine Song Xiu, feeling dazed and uneasy. The old man Qin who was driving said, "Girl, when we get to Kinjiagu, we will tell others that you are from the next county and your parents are dead." "Okay." Song Jin responded. "Mr. Song and I have discussed it. The one who is engaged to the eldest daughter is my son Qin Ming Song. He is 18 this year. He is already a scholar and is studying at Xiang Academy in Fucheng. According to the laws of the Great Xia dynasty, the crime does not affect the daughter of a married woman. Therefore, when Song Quan saw something happen to the Song family, it happened that his old acquaintance Qin, the old man, was staying at the Song family tonight, so he betrothed his daughter to the son of the Qin family. The Qin family has only two marriageable boys. One is Qin Ming Song, the youngest son of old man Qin, and the other is Qin Qi, the eldest son of the house. Song Jin was betrothed to Qin Ming Song by Song's father. The concubine Song Xiu was only 14 years old and was given to Qin Qi after this disaster. The wealthy Song family was completely destroyed. Song Jin tightened her clothes. Although she was reborn, her rebirth was too late and failed to solve the Song family's dead situation. That's all, take it one step at a time. The carriage traveled more than 80 miles from Shi County to Kinjiagu. If we continued on the road, we would reach Qin's house the next day. After old man Qin's arrangement, Song Jin and Song Xiu moved into the same room. The room was kept very clean. There is an 80% new bed, a semi-old wardrobe and a square low table. There is a 6-legged basin stand in the corner, and there are also personal toiletries and other daily necessities on the shelf. In addition, there is a large bookshelf standing next to the wall, which is filled with books, from the 3-character classic and Disciples' Regulations to The Great Learning, the Analects of Confucius, etc., most of which are related to the imperial examination. The books and articles are neatly arranged without any damage, which shows the owner's care for them. According to her memories from her previous life, this should be Qin Qi's house. Presumably it was because Qin Qi had not returned yet that old Qin allowed her sisters to live here. "Sister, do you want to live in this house?" When Song Xiu saw this small and simple room, she felt extremely disgusted. "I have never lived in such a bad place in my life. Children from farmers usually have to sleep in the same room. It would be nice to have a single room." Song Jin was accustomed to the willfulness of his concubine. What's more, the current situation is dangerous, and sisters are lucky to be alive. How can they be picky about the environment in which they live? Song Xiu stopped talking, but when he secretly peeked at Song Jin, his eyes were full of malice. In her previous life, she married Qin Qi and became a widow early. Song Jin became the first lady in the second year of her marriage. When she was 17 years old, she remarried a poor scholar, ate chaffy vegetables every day, and was chastised by her evil mother-in-law. Song Jin had a good life, and Qin Ming Song became a high school jincher within 2 years, enjoying great glory. Later, she was tricked by a man into working as a prostitute in another place. Every day was as bad as a pig or a dog. It was dark, and there was no one to collect the corpse until the day he died. Why can my sister marry the charming Qin Ming Song? She also became an official's wife and lived a good life that everyone envied. And she could only marry a sick man and become a widow early. Why? Just because her sister was born 2 years earlier than her. Before Song Xiu's death, he was full of resentment and deeply hated the injustice of heaven. Unexpectedly, after death, people do not go to hell, but returned to their home when the accident happened. They were on their way to the Qin family for the first time. Song Xiu cried with joy. She felt that this was God compensating her and allowing her to live again. This time, she didn't want to marry that sick man again. She is going to marry her brother-in-law. She will be the official wife, the scenery is hers, and the good life is hers. Sister, are you feeling better? Song Jin asked concernedly while spreading the quilt on the bed. Song Xiu said in her usual pampering tone, much better, sister, do you really want to marry a mud-legged man? Why doesn't Dad find us someone from the city? Sister, be careful what you say. Song Jin understood his father's approach, now it's not up to you and me to be picky. If you want to survive, just follow Dad's arrangements. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. I can't help you. Song Xiu curled her lips in displeasure, suddenly rolled her eyes, stood up and covered her stomach, I'm going to make it easier. After saying that, Song Xiu ran out. Song Jin hasn't slept a wink since the accident at home, and really doesn't have the energy to take care of her sister. Anyway, she is in the Qin family, so nothing major can happen. She sat on the edge of the bed, wanting to rest first. However, out of control, my mind thought of my father, whose life or death was uncertain, and of the Luban box he hurriedly gave me. Song Jin stood up, picked up the baggage, and found the Luban box. I learned how to use the box mechanism when I was a child. So, she opened it easily. Inside the box were 10 silver ingots, a stack of silver notes, household registration documents and a few jewelry items. Song Jin skillfully opened the underlying mechanism, and there was indeed something hidden inside. It was a letter and a copy of Song's Pharmacopoeia. This Song family pharmacopoeia is the foundation for generations of the Song family to live and work. It records the roasting techniques of hundreds of medicinal materials. As a result, the Song family has been established in Fuqing for 100 years, and the medicinal materials they sell are always 2 to 3 points better than other medicinal materials on the market, and the price is reasonable, so they are highly sought after by doctors. Song Jin opened the letter again. The letter explained some things, asking her to memorize the contents of the pharmacopoeia before burning it, and remember not to fall into the hands of others. It also mentioned that the Song family was in trouble, and it was suspected that a noble person in Beijing coveted the pharmacopoeia. Finally, he told her to work hard to live and not let others plot against her. The words contained fatherly love and earnest teachings, which made Song Jin's eyes red with sadness. The happiest and most beautiful time in my previous life was when I was protected by my father. It's just that she was young and ignorant at that time, and she always complained that her father was too serious. You don't know how precious you are until you lose it, but you want to support your son but your mother is not there. Just at this moment, soft footsteps came from outside the door. Song Jin wiped away the tears on his face and hurriedly stuffed the letter and book into his arms. The door was pushed open. Song Xiu carefully brought a bowl of egg and brown sugar water in and said attentively, Sister, are you hungry? The kitchen has boiled egg and brown sugar water and it's still hot. I'll bring you a bowl right away. You can fill your stomach first. Song Jin was indeed a little hungry, so he ate the sugar water gracefully. After a long while, Song Jin's face changed, and she secretly cried out, Sister, you. Before the sentence was finished, the person lost consciousness. The author solemnly declares, the historical dynasties in this article are fictitious, and historical readers should not pay attention to them. In addition, this article involves professional knowledge, a few of which come from the internet, and most of which come from the Encyclopedia of Processed Chinese Medicines, Encyclopedia of Chinese Medicinal Materials, Chinese Herbal Medicine Authenticity Identification Codex, Pharmacopoeia, etc. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 2, Caught and Raped in Bed. Chapter 2 Caught in Bed. The sun sets and the moon rises, the stars change. The eastern sky gradually revealed a hazy light. Song Jin didn't know how long he had been asleep. He only knew that when he woke up, he was lying next to a man. The man was about 16 or 17 years old, with a thin face and beautiful and perfect bones. At this time, his eyes were closed, his eyebrows were lightly raised, and his smooth forehead was stained with a thin layer of sweat, as if he was having a bad dream. This man is clearly the eldest grandson of the Qin family. He is the man who was married to the concubine in the previous life, Qin Qi, who died long ago. She fell unconscious after drinking the egg sugar water given by Song Xiu, and slept with Qin Qi when she woke up. Song Xiu is her biological sister. Although she is not a sibling, she is still a biological sister. Why do you treat her like this? This didn't happen in my previous life. Squeak. The door was pushed open. Song Xiu and an old woman walked into the house. The old woman was black and thin, with a slightly hunched back. Her hair was neatly combed into a bun, and her cloudy eyes revealed a bit of shrewdness. When he came in, a pair of old eyes looked up and down at Song Jin. Song Jin recognized this person as Old Lu, the wife of Old Man Qin. Sister, how could this happen? How could you be with him? Song Xiu has a delicate face and a pair of big moist eyes, but she can't hide her crazy ambition and determination to win. Song Jin looked at Song Xiu coldly, and with just one glance, he made a bold guess. Not only is she back, but Song Xiu is also back. I am afraid that Song Xiu was dissatisfied with her previous marriage, so she came up with this stupid trick. And he was afraid that she would deny it, so he brought a witness with him. Song Jin was very disappointed with Song Xiu. As the eldest daughter of the Song family, she only wanted to overturn the case for the Song family, but Song Xiu only cared about the love between her children. Miss Song, now that you and Qin Qi have reached this point, the only choice is for the second girl, Song Xiu, to marry my Ming Song. Old Lu's wrinkled eyes stared straight at Song Jin. Old Man Qin talked about marriage when he came back. Song Xiu came to her earlier and said that her sister Song Jin had been ill a few years ago and the doctor said it was difficult to have children. Is it okay for Old Lu to hear this? Her precious youngest son will be a high-ranking official in the future. How can he have a sterile woman as his wife? Song Xiu also suggested that Song Jin and Qin Qi should cook the rice. In this case, Song Jin would not be able to marry Qin Ming Song. Old Lu agreed immediately. At Song Xiu's instigation, Old Lu asked someone to send a message to Qin Qi, who was still in the academy, saying that he had something important to do. Qin Qi did not doubt that he was there and rushed back quickly. After drinking a cup of tea that had been prepared, he lost consciousness just like Song Jin. Old Lu and Song Xiu moved the two of them to the same bed and appeared at the right time. Auntie, I have no objection to marrying Qin Qi, please go out first. I have something to talk to my concubine. Song Jin didn't get angry, he spoke calmly to Mr. Lu, and deliberately changed his sister's name to concubine. Old Lu's expression was slightly startled, as if he had never expected Song Jin to be so calm, and he was even more certain in his heart. Song Jin must be suffering from the problem of being unable to have children, otherwise how could he be so happy? Sister, are you really willing to marry Qin Qi? After Mr. Lu left, Song Jin hadn't spoken yet, but Song Xiu was beaming with joy. Song Jin's face darkened, and his voice was not loud, but full of momentum. Song Xiu, kneel down. Song Xiu was shocked and naturally refused. Sister, what are you doing? Song Jin saw that she was still being stubborn without kneeling down, so he reached out and slapped her. You still know that I am your sister. The Song family suffered this disaster. It is already difficult for us sisters to survive, but you still want to frame your own sister. I slap you, it is not an exaggeration. Song Xiu covered her face. She had to say that she was really frightened by Song Jin's aura just now. But even so, she didn't think she was at fault. I just want to find a good husband for myself. What's wrong with me? I've inquired, Qin Qi is a sick man, he won't live long. I don't want to be a widow soon after getting married. Song Xiu was half-truthful. Pretending. Song Jin sneered at the corner of his mouth, looking at Song Xiu, his eyes were full of disappointment. If you really want to marry Qin Ming Song, you can tell me the truth, but you have to use such despicable means. Regardless of blood ties. Unexpectedly, Song Xiu actually spoke her true feelings, and Song Jin was even more sure that she was reborn. Any talk of inquiring is just a cover-up. But she didn't understand. No matter in the previous life or in this life, she was very kind to Song Xiu, her concubine, but Song Xiu didn't care about the relationship between sisters at all and regarded her, Song Jin's innocence as nothing. In this world without innocence, would she not know what would happen to a woman? Song Xiu was shocked to realize that her sister-in-law was different from the past. Her aura was not something she could possess at such a young age. Now that their sisters are living under someone else's roof, they really shouldn't break up with each other. When Song Xiu thought about this, she hugged Song Jin with tears in her eyes and cried, "Sister, I just lost my mind for a moment. I hope you can forgive me." In the past, Song Jin would have taken her performance seriously, but now he finds it extremely ironic. Song Jin pushed Song Xiu away and said, "Now that the matter is over, just go and marry the good match you want. In the future, the sisterhood will no longer exist. I hope you can get what you want." Song Xiu thought that marrying Qin Shi meant her life would be miserable, but Qin Mingsong was not a good match either. Song Jin sneered inwardly. "Since my concubine wants this marriage, let her have it and let her experience the feeling of being a widow." In their previous lives, Song Jin and Qin Mingsong treated each other as if they were guests. On the surface, they were harmonious and beautiful, which attracted admiration from others, but in reality, they had unspeakable hardships behind their backs. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. Qin Mingsong already had a sweetheart before he got married. Song Jin felt that he was wrong for occupying his sweetheart's position and never told anyone. Little did he know that Qin Mingsong secretly raised the woman outside and gave birth to a son and a daughter. Song Jin had nothing to do for 7 years, and Qin Mingsong was a jinshi in high school. No matter how others tried to persuade him, he still refused to divorce his wife and marry another. But who knew that she, Song Jin, had been married for 7 years and was still a young woman? Later, when Qin Mingsong became an official in the court, he only took his wife and a pair of children with him. On the contrary, she, the first wife, stayed in her hometown, claiming that she was serving her parents-in-law on behalf of her husband, and once again earned a good reputation for him. Thinking about it this way, Song Jin felt that there was nothing wrong with being a widow. At least it won't be as disgusting as eating a fly. "Sister, do you really mean what you said?" Song Xiu didn't believe that Song Jin would give up good things to others so easily. "Absolutely true." Song Jin looked calm. "So, Xiu is very grateful. If my sister encounters difficulties in the future, just come to me." Song Xiu shed a few tears in a false voice, but when she turned around and left, a smile appeared on her face. Finally, she no longer had to marry that sick man. From now on, she would be the wife of a high-ranking official and live a life of fine clothing and fine food. As for letting Song Jin come to her, those were just polite words. Cough, cough, cough. After Song Xiu left, a man's cough sounded in the room. Following the sound, Song Jin happened to meet a pair of deep and awe-inspiring eyes. Those pupils seemed calm, but in fact they were hidden in edge, as sharp as an eagle. Qin Shi looked steadily at Song Jin. After a moment of regaining consciousness, he deceived himself and raised his arm lightly to his forehead. His sleeves covered half of his face and his eyes, and the unprovoked aura just now was gone, like a tiger suddenly turning into a sick cat. He also naturally showed his sickly attitude. Song Jin was stunned. Is this person's sense of presence a bit low? In my anger just now, I forgot that there was someone else in the room. Did he hear those words just now? Thinking back to the conversation with Song Xiu just now, Song Jin felt happy. Fortunately, the words rebirth were not spoken, otherwise it would have been too shocking and impossible to end. P.S. If you don't like this type, just give up and refuse negative reviews. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 3, I didn't take advantage of you. Chapter 3, I didn't take advantage of you. Qin Shi slowly sat up and checked his clothes slowly, as if checking whether he had lost his virginity. Song Jin's cheeks felt inexplicably hot. To be honest, after resurrecting her life, she only regarded him as a junior, but she never had such thoughts. But let him do this. I didn't take advantage of you. Song Jin blurted out. Qin glanced at her coolly and said nothing, but Song Jin could see his disbelief. Song Jin suddenly remembered something and asked with a guilty conscience, Are you awake a long time ago? Qin's tone was slightly cold. It's late, and I just heard that you two sisters turned against each other over the marriage. This drama is very interesting. In his previous life, Song Jin had only met Qin a few times, and had no personal contact with him. His understanding of him was very shallow, and most of it was just hearsay after his death. Some people say that he is good at painting, and others say that he has good character and knowledge. They all say that he is jealous of talents. Others said that he was different from what he appeared to be, that he was cruel and evil, and that he deceived the world and stole his reputation. However, everyone who listened felt that this was an immoral smear, and was unanimously condemned by everyone. How dark is this person's heart when he still throws dirt on someone even after he's dead? However, just after getting along with him for a short time, Song Jin knew that Qin was not easy to mess with. Where did you sisters come from? It seems that you are sure to marry into the Qin family. Qin sat on the couch with a natural expression. Song Jin couldn't help but blush when she thought of her father's plans for their sisters. After thinking about it, she revealed the marriage between the Song and Qin families. You are very generous. My concubine caused you to lose your reputation of innocence and a good marriage. You actually gave it to her so generously. Qin stared at Song Jin intently, his eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. Song Jin pursed her lips slightly. Only the person who gets married will know whether a marriage is good or bad. What is the saying? Just like a person drinking water, he knows whether it is warm or cold. Qin looked at her with mixed eyes. Song Jin was different from ordinary women. An ordinary woman only wants to marry a good husband in her life, but this is not her ambition. You are probably saying this because you have never met my brother-in-law. If you have, you will definitely regret it. He is gentle and elegant, and shows his talent. If nothing else, it is easy for him to become an official through the imperial examination. As for me, I am plagued by illness and fear that my life will be short. Not to mention fame and fortune, my survival is a problem. A person's life is not about length. I see that although you are sick, you are a transparent person. Song Jin blurted out without thinking too much. Qin looked at her very curiously. Song Jin was only a boudoir woman, but she could say such words. In that case, our marriage is settled. Hearing this, Song Jin felt relieved. As long as the marriage is settled, other things can be taken care of slowly. Tuk tuk. Just at this moment, there was a knock on the door. It rang twice and then stopped, and a little girl's clear voice came from outside. Brother, please go to the main room to talk. New. Qin responded and looked at Song Jin again. Song Jin nodded slightly. She straightened her clothes and hair, and followed Qin out of the room. Standing outside was a delicate little girl. As soon as she saw Song Jin, she ran away with a smile. The little girl's name is Qin Daya. She is the second daughter of the Qin family and the eldest granddaughter of the Qin family. Soon, the two of them went to the main room. Old Qin stood in the room with a dark face, and behind him stood the guilty old Lu and Song Xiu. As soon as old man Qin saw Qin entering the room, he raised his hand and was about to hit someone. You bastard! Who gave you the courage? Uncle Qin. Song Jin stepped forward and raised his hand to stop, and explained for Qin, I don't know how much you know about this matter, but Qin is not wrong at all. Now that the matter has come to this, it is better to let it take its course and everyone will be happy. The mastermind of this matter was Song Xiu, who had nothing to do with Qin. Qin raised his eyes to look at the young lady standing in front of him, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. At home, my grandfather always said that he could not get away with the marriage he agreed to. Qin prefers Song Jin to Song Xiu, who married his scheming sister. However, he felt that his uncle and Song Xiu were a good match. It's nothing. Until many years later, when Qin recalled the first time he met his beloved wife, he repeatedly thanked Song Xiu for not being a thing. Without Song Xiu, he and his wife would have missed out. Old Qin was ashamed. It's the Qin family that can't help you. Song Jin tried to comfort her. Uncle, you don't have to be like this. Marriage is destined by fate. This may be the so-called fate. Everyone present was as clear as a mirror, but they had a tacit understanding not to pierce the fig leaf. Song Xiu was overjoyed. As long as her sister didn't make trouble, the marriage change would be a success. Qin Chi spoke at the right time. Grandpa, if you really feel guilty and want to make amends, you can allow her to have her own family. Hearing this, Song Jin looked at Qin Chi in surprise. This guy has a lot of thoughts. I'm afraid he is the one who wants the little family to be independent, right? However, this matter is also beneficial to her, so she will not reveal it. In the previous life, the Qin family lived together. There were no big things, but a lot of trivial things. Song Jin was happy to see the success. When he said this, old man Qin had no choice but to agree, otherwise it would be deceptive and pretentious to fool people. After being silent for a long time, old Qin said, "It's natural for a small family to be independent. Old man, we haven't separated our family yet. How can she have her own independent family? This is against the rules." Old Lu was unwilling to give in. Song Xiu had already said that when Song Jin and Qin Chi's marriage was completed, both sisters would be the dowry brought by the daughter-in-law of the Qin family can be returned to the palace. And wouldn't returning to the public house mean falling into her hands? But now that old man Qin allows Song Jin's family to be independent, why does she have any reason to ask for Song Jin's dowry? Shut up. You have done something stupid, who have you to interfere? In fact, old Qin had asked clearly before. Old Lu and Song Xiu hurriedly came to him and said that Song Jin and Qin Chi had done something embarrassing. Old Qin was not easy to fool, so he immediately questioned old Lu. Old Mrs. Lu was most afraid of old man Qin, and he was ready to attack him in just a few words. Only then did old Qin apologize to Song Jin. Old Lu knew that he was in the wrong and was immediately speechless. Well, thank you uncle. I have one more thing I want to ask your uncle to do. Song Jin felt a little blessed. Old man Qin ordered the others to go out. Grandma got what she wanted, why aren't you happy? After leaving the house, Qin Chi deliberately approached old Lu and mentioned what had just happened. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. Old Mrs. Lu glanced at him and said, "You are so weak, go back and rest quickly." With that said, she pulled Song Xiu aside. Qin Chi looked at the two people's backs thoughtfully. Song Xiu, if you want to be my good daughter-in-law, go and get the dowry. Old Lu reminded Song Xiu in a very low voice. Song Xiu was very embarrassed. She didn't expect that old Qin would agree to Song Jin's independence. She had already broken her skin with Song Jin once in exchange for marriage. How could Song Jin be willing to ask for a dowry again? Auntie, we just did such a thing, wasn't it too? However, Mrs. Lu didn't care about that and said forcefully, the dowry is half of yours. It is reasonable for you to get it. If you don't go, I will let my son marry another one. There are plenty of good girls. Song Xiu was anxious and responded quickly, I'll do it as soon as possible. Only then did old Lu feel satisfied. While Song Jin and old man Qin were having a private conversation in the hall, Song Xiu sneaked into the previous room, which was Qin Chi's room. When he came out again, he carried her baggage in a box in his arms. On the other side, Song Jin talked with old man Qin for a quarter of an hour before returning to the house. She asked old man Qin to help with two things, one was about the marriage certificate, and the other was to send a letter. Old Qin went out immediately and came back less than 2 hours later, handing Song Jin a marriage certificate. Above are the names of Qin Chi and Song Jin, but the date is not today, but moved 5 days forward. 5 days ago, Song Jin's father had not yet been convicted. The key is that the marriage certificate has the stamp of the local government office. In this way, the identity of a married woman has passed the clear path. The marriage certificate was kept secret, and no outsiders knew about it except the person who handled it. It is still necessary to hide one's life experience from the outside world. Song Jin does not want the people behind the plot to frame the Song family to find Kim Jae-gu so quickly. There was no such thing as a marriage certificate in the previous life. Marriage in the country is simple and has its own set of agreed-upon rules. Few people spend money to go to the yamen to get the marriage contract. As the saying goes, the 8-character yamen opens to the south, so don't come in if you have reason or money. The people were in awe of the government and would not even think of going to the government unless absolutely necessary. To marry a wife and have a child, you only need to go to the village chief and report it. By the time Song Jin realized the importance of the marriage certificate, it was already too late. At that time, Qin Ming Song had already passed the Jinshur examination, which was the hope of the entire Qin family to change their family. Those who entered the dynasty as officials in Daxia had to have a clean family background. How could Qin Ming Song admit Song Jin's identity, let alone expose it in black and white? The days can only be lived in a muddle. For a long time, Song Jin's eyes became more and more determined that he could never live in confusion again in this life. Just when she was about to put the marriage certificate into the Luban box, she suddenly found that the box was missing. I saw your concubine come in, and she was carrying a baggage in her hand when she left. Why don't you ask me? Song Jin was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. Qin Chi suddenly pushed the door open and reminded her. It turned out that Qin Chi had not gone far earlier and had been staring at Song Xiu. A trace of surprise flashed in Song Jin's eyes. Qin Chi would actually help her. Also, what did he call her just now? Song Jin was in a hurry to find the Luban box. She didn't have time to think about it and hurried out the door. She went straight to Qin Ming Song's house and slammed the door hard. Song Xiu wanted to marry Qin Ming Song, so she couldn't wait to move into Qin Ming Song's house. Sure enough, the person who opened the door was Song Xiu. Song Xiu pretended to be confused. Sister, are you looking for me? Crack. Song Jin slapped her in the face and said coldly, give my things back. Suddenly, Song Xiu didn't dare to say anything anymore and said aggrievedly, Sister, I also have a share of the dowry given by my father. Song Jin snorted coldly, did you only take away a portion of the dowry? Song Xiu bit her lower lip tightly, Sister, you are marrying a sick man. No one will ask you for a dowry. I am different. Qin Ming Song is a scholar and will be a high official in the future. If I don't have a dowry, I will be it's ridiculous. She didn't want to take it all, but when she thought of so much money in her previous life, she couldn't hold back the greed in her heart. Unfortunately, the Luban box was difficult to open. It took me a long time to open the lock, and Song Jin came to find it. You can't do it, right? Then let Uncle Qin make the decision. Song Jin's voice rose a little higher. Song Xiu panicked, no, I'll take it right now. After all, old man Qin has the final say in the Qin family. After what happened just now, old man Qin must be targeting Song Jin. Song Xiu returned to the house and took out the Luban box. Song Jin took it and opened it, leaving half of the silver and silver notes. Song's father had prepared the money, and Yan Ming's sisters each had half of it. The jewelry is a relic of Song Jin's mother-in-law, so there is no need to divide it. After closing the Luban box, Song Jin said coldly, Song Xiu, you have got what you want, and you can live a peaceful life from now on. I will not take advantage of you, but I will not allow you to occupy even half of what belongs to me. After saying that, Song Jin left without looking back. Song Xiu looked at Song Jin's back and had a bad feeling in her heart. Was this marriage the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? Not long after Song Jin turned around and left, she saw Qin Chi standing under the eaves in a long gown and looking at her. She just looked at him and nodded, thanking him. End of chapter. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 4, A Marriage Certificate. Chapter 4, A Marriage Certificate. After returning to the house, Song Jin threw the letters and pharmacopoeia left by his father into the brazier and burned them. Keeping the real thing would sooner or later be a disaster, so it was better to burn it. Anyway, she was already familiar with the contents of the pharmacopoeia in her previous life. When it was almost finished, Qin Chi came into the house carrying a teapot. Song Jin stood up in surprise, covering the brazier behind him without any trace of his body. Qin-Chi just glanced at it and vaguely saw half of the Chinese character song in the title of the book, as well as a half-burned letter. He pretended not to see the brazier, moved the square low table next to him to the bed, then placed the teapot and 2 tea bowls on it. "Come here and have a bowl of tea." Song Jin went over and sat opposite him. Qin-Chi's white fingers gently lifted the teapot and poured another bowl of hot tea. The movement of pouring tea is like flowing clouds and flowing water, which is really beautiful. Pushing a bowl of tea in front of Song Jin, Qin-Chi said with a pun, "At home, I only have scented tea picked from the mountains. I just drink it, and it can also clear away heat and reduce internal heat." "Thank you." Song Jin picked up the tea bowl. "There is no common courtesy in the family, no need to thank you." Qin-Chi said nonchalantly, "My grandfather said that he has issued a marriage certificate for you and me today." Song Jin nodded. Qin-Chi asked again, "Can I take a look?" As a client, he wanted to see it, but Song Jin had no reason to refuse. Putting down the tea bowl, Song Jin took out the marriage certificate and handed it to him. Just as he said, Qin-Chi only glanced at it and asked her to put it away. Song Jin carefully put the marriage certificate back to its original place. Qin-Chi's eyes were slightly strange when he saw this, but his face didn't show it. "It's just a marriage certificate. If it's broken and lost, you can go to the yamen to get a replacement. Is it worth treating it with such care?" Song Jin said, "It's worth it. This is a life-saving piece of paper." Qin-Chi raised his eyebrows upon hearing this, obviously pleased by her actions. Paying so much attention to the marriage document should be a matter of satisfaction with the marriage, rather than rushing to get married to him. This is really a strange misunderstanding. Song Jin didn't expect Qin-Chi to think wrongly, and was thinking about another thing. "Ms. Sir, when will you go to the academy?" Qin-Chi lowered his eyelids and said calmly, "I asked for a long leave. I just want to go to the academy to find my master to spend the leave. How about I take care of you when you go to the academy? I want to rent a small courtyard near the academy." Song Jin wanted to live in the city for convenience. "This isn't appropriate." Qin-Chi's hand holding the tea paused slightly. "Would this be too clingy?" Then Qin-Chi thought of something, and the ripples that had just started were extinguished instantly. His future is uncertain, so why should he be sincere to others? It will only add to his sadness. Song Jin's attitude was firm. "There is nothing wrong. My husband needs people for food, clothing, housing, transportation, and 3 meals a day." Qin-Chi glanced at her deeply and said, "This reason is not wrong, but it cannot convince the elders in the family. If you have to go, I will tell my parents about it." "Thank you, sir." Song Jin's eyes were filled with gratitude. Qin-Chi also reminded Song Jin to have breakfast tomorrow morning. The rules of ordinary people's homes are not as complicated as those of wealthy people, but they are not completely absent. For example, in Kanjiagu, the new daughter-in-law must cook a delicious meal for her parents-in-law the day after she enters the house to show her respect and filial piety to her parents-in-law. It is also an opportunity for the bride to show off. It is said that the parents-in-law feel comfortable eating this meal, which means they are satisfied with the new daughter-in-law, and the new daughter-in-law will have an easier life in her husband's family in the future. If the parents-in-law are not satisfied with the meal, the new daughter-in-law will have a hard time in the future and will have to work hard. Song Jin knew this custom. Qin-Chi narrowed his eyes slightly and said after a while, "My uncle will go home tomorrow." "Oh." Song Jin was not surprised. Seeing her mediocre reaction, Qin-Chi stopped mentioning it. Song Jin never stepped out of the room again, and even ate dinner in the room. At night, Song Jin quickly washed up and then lay down on the bed and pretended to sleep. Qin-Chi found another quilt. The two of them slept separately in a tacit agreement, as if they had completely forgotten that tonight was their wedding night. Until he woke up, Qin-Chi discovered the warm fragrance of the extra nephrite in his arms. The faint feminine fragrance lingered on the tip of his nose, a fragrance he had never smelled before. It smelled good, and I subconsciously shrugged my nose again. After a while, my rationality returned. In order to avoid embarrassment, Qin-Chi quietly let go of the man in his arms, got up and got out of bed to get dressed. He had just put on his shoes. Behind him, a slightly soft voice asked, "It's still dark outside, are you about to get up and cook?" "Well, it's time to get up." Qin-Chi responded casually. Song Jin rubbed his sleepy eyes and got up to get dressed. When he walked to the door and wanted to go to the kitchen in the dark, he saw Qin-Chi following behind him holding a lamp. Song Jin was confused. "What are you doing? Have you ever cooked?" Qin-Chi lowered his eyes and looked at her hands. The fingers were slender and as white as jade, reminding him of the finest mutton fat jade. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. Song Jin wants to say that she can cook. But at this time in her previous life, let alone knowing how to cook, she couldn't even make a fire. Kitchen chores are all learned after marrying. The two of them entered the kitchen one after the other. Song Jin simply washed the rice, and Qin-Chi did the rest. Qin-Chi didn't understand it because it was too complicated, so he just cooked a big pot of thick rice porridge and made two ready-made side dishes, such as pickled spicy cabbage and fried peanuts. No one in the Qin family has woken up yet. As long as Qin-Chi didn't say anything, no one would know that it wasn't Song Jin who made this breakfast. "You take the rice porridge to the main room first, and I'll boil another pot of water." Qin-Chi lifted up his clothes and squatted in front of the stove, and began to add firewood to the stove. Song Jin looked at the thin young man, who was lighting the fire quickly. Under the light of the fire in front of the stove, the sharpness of the stove were gone, and there was a bit of hazy softness. The long black eyelashes were like crescent moons, half of them. Covering a pair of ink-like starry eyes, the high bridge of the nose is delicate and picturesque, and the light lip color is very attractive. Bang! There was a slight noise outside. Song Jin regained consciousness in panic, picked up a large bowl of porridge and walked out of the kitchen, feeling quite like running away. As soon as I entered the main room, I saw old Mrs. Lu. Mrs. Lu didn't want to see her eldest son. Not only did her eldest son marry a sickly daughter-in-law, she also gave birth to a sick baby. She spent a lot of money on medicine since she was a child. Even if Mrs. Li earned the money from her embroidery work and didn't spend a penny on Mrs. Lu, she was still unhappy. Even Song Jin, who had just entered the house, and Mr. Lu were not happy. The old Lu family has been in charge of the family for decades and is used to giving orders in this family. Song Jin is out of control as soon as she comes. It's strange that she can be happy. In addition, Song Xiu cried yesterday and said that she could only get half of the dowry, and old Lu was in an even worse mood. Old Lu said angrily, "You got up so early. And you made breakfast. Milk, it's done." Song Jin quickly put down the porridge basin. She and Qin-Chi had become a couple, and it was time for old Lu to change her gender. Old Lu's eyes were sharp and he saw a large pot of rice porridge on the table, which was steaming. It had obviously just come out of the pot. Song Jin wanted to go back to the kitchen first. Song Xiutingting appeared and said with ill intentions, "This is the first time I have seen my sister cooking in my life. Sister, let me help you." "Don't bother, I should have done this." Song Jin was worried that someone would go to the kitchen and see Qin-Chi especially doing housework. There will definitely be a lot of trouble. Song Jin hurriedly turned to the kitchen. As soon as they arrived at the kitchen door, they saw old Lu and Song Xiu following them. One had an elongated face, and the other looked like he was watching a good show. Song Jin was so nervous that his palms were sweating. If Qin-Chi was found to have cooked this breakfast, not to mention old Lu, even mother-in-law Li would probably not give her a good look. "Why are you leaving so fast? Is there a man hiding in the kitchen?" Old Lu had a vicious mind. Song Jin suddenly turned around and saw old Lu angrily. Just as he was about to say something, Song Xiu, who followed, exaggerated, "Auntie, please be careful what you say. If your word spread, how will my sister see anyone in the future?" "Humph. She didn't do anything wrong. Why is she guilty?" Pushing Song Jin away vigorously, Mr. Lu rushed into the kitchen. "I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl." Chapter 5, The Second Day After Marrying into the Queue. Chapter 5 The second day after marrying into the Qin family. Song Jin hurriedly followed. Then, no one is inside. There was only the occasional crackling sound when the firewood was burning, the stove was burning, and white steam was rising from the edge of the pot lid. The side dishes were placed on the table. Old Mrs. Lu stared straight at Song Jin. There is no one in the kitchen, why are you anxious? The water is still boiling in the pot. I can't wait to see it. Song Jin didn't know when Qin left, but she wouldn't be stupid enough to admit it. Song Jin was not afraid of Mr. Lu, but he didn't want to cause trouble. In her previous life, she had experienced how difficult the old godly woman was. Old Mr. Lu left with an unhappy look on his face. Song Xiu glanced at the kitchen regretfully. Sister, are you okay? Song Xiu pretended to be worried on her face, but the malice in her eyes was about to overflow. I know Qin did it for you today, don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Thinking of old Lu's attitude towards Song Jin, she thought that her life would not be easy in the future. After Qin died of illness, it would be difficult for Song Jin to get married again if she had to bear the reputation of being a coffin. Just thinking about Song Jin's miserable situation made Song Xiu feel happy in his heart. It's just that you want to use something to stop my mouth. Song Xiu started to blackmail. Although he had broken up with her a long time ago, Song Jin still felt a little cold in his heart, and said with a stern face, you can talk if you want, no one will stop you. After leaving this sentence, Song Jin didn't bother to pay attention to Song Xiu anymore, and squatted down to add firewood to the stove. This attitude made Song Xiu stomp her feet, turned around and walked away angrily. When there was no one in the kitchen, Song Jin quickly stood up, took the side dishes to the hall, and then hurried back to the house, where she saw Qin washing up. When did you? Song Jin turned around and closed the door. I went back to the room first when I heard the noise. Qin with the handkerchief and wiped his face. When you come in, wash up first, and then we will go to the main room together. Okay. Song Jin's eyes fell on the brand new toothbrush and tooth powder beside them. This is for her. She just married into the Qin family and lacked everything. Someone was ready, and Song Jin felt a little warm in his heart. However, this time she did not say thank you, she just kept the good thing in her heart silently. Give me a peach and give me a plum in return. In the short time he has, she will be kind to him. This life is different from the previous life. In his previous life, old Qin had spoken out about the marriage arbitrarily in front of everyone, and could not tolerate the objections of Qin Mingsong and Qin Chi. He set up 2 banquets the next day and entertained the most respected elders in the village. They married into the Qin family together. Now Song Jinxian is married to Qin Chi. Song Xiu hadn't even seen Qin Mingsong's face yet. Old Qin's name is Qin Shi. He is over 50 years old. He and Mr. Lu raised 4 sons and 2 daughters. 2 daughters are already married, and of the 4 sons, only Qin Mingsong is not yet married. When Mr. Qin was young, he worked outside for a few years. When he made money, he returned home to build a house and buy property. It is said that he became a master and learned the art of making ink. He would make a small amount of hui ink every year and sell it to the rich, and he supported his family by doing so, is a well-known wealthy household in the village. The Qin family is prosperous and has 7 grandchildren. The eldest son of the Qin family, Qin Mingzhong, is married to the Li family and has his only son, Qin Mingyi. The second wife, married Xiao Lu and gave birth to 5 children, 4 sons and 1 daughter. The third wife was Qin Mingqing, his wife was Lin, and they had a 2-year-old daughter. The Qin family gathered in the hall today, happily put on their cleanest clothes, and waited in the hall for the official appearance of their new daughter-in-law. Song Jin and Qin Chi stepped into the threshold one after another, standing side by side as if they were covered in sunshine. At first glance, they looked handsome and beautiful as a picture scroll. The main reason is that Song Jin's appearance is too prosperous, which makes Qin Chi, who was previously very sick in the eyes of the Qin family, look a bit different. It wasn't until the 2 men approached that everyone came back to their senses. Qin Lao chuckled and said, "Brother and sister-in-law, you have chosen the right niece and nephew. Take a look, when the elder man and his nephew and daughter-in-law stand together, they become energetic. It's really good looking." "Ha ha ha, second brother, Dalong has been good-looking since he was a child. He is not worse than the fourth brother, but he is a little thinner. Qin Laosan joked. Qin Chi smiled lightly. Second uncle, third uncle, please stop joking. My nephew is thin-skinned. Why are you so thin? Only a man with a thick skin can be successful. Little Lu said carelessly, Dalang, you already have a wife, so you can't be thin-skinned, otherwise you won't be able to have a baby. Qin Chi's mouth twitched slightly. The second aunt is just a talker, so you'll get used to it. Next to him, Qin Sanlang's little face was red, and he said awkwardly, Mom, why do you just open your mouth and come? I'm still young. You are a 9-year-old kid, your hair hasn't grown yet, why are you so shy? Xiao Lu slapped her second son on the head. Ha ha ha. The adults roared with laughter. The children, whether they understood or not, followed the adults and had fun. Except for Arya, who is 2 years old, all the other children are from the second family. The oldest is Qin Dia, who is 13 this year. Next is Qin Erlang, who is just 11 years old. The two little boys, about 3 or 4 years old, were the twins born to Mrs. Lu. The most fertile child in the Qin family is Xiao Lu. After Mrs. Li gave birth to Qin Chi, she never got pregnant again, but Mrs. Lin was pregnant twice, but neither of them got pregnant. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. Song Jin always kept smiling. Deal with embarrassment with a smile, and as long as she doesn't show it, no one will know. Qi Mingsong and Song Xiu were not seen in the room. Qi Mingsong should not have come back. It would be strange for Song Xiu not to be here on this occasion. Just when Song Jin was confused. Old Mrs. Lu ordered, Dia, go and invite the second girl. Okay, tits. Qin Dia went out in response and came back soon. Song Xiu was wearing a dark green flower and bird underskirt, walking in small steps and walking in full measure. She has very few accessories, only a peony flower on her head, but it is just right, making her face look like a hibiscus and her person like a flower. Song Jin saw that Song Xiu had dressed up carefully. Song Xiu handed over a jasper bead hairpin as soon as he came up. She smiled lightly and said, Sister, this is your wedding gift from my sister. It's a waste. Song Jin took it. I still have to show my dignity in front of others, but I just don't want to be laughed at in public. Song Xiu seemed to be joking and said, What a waste, when I get married, my sister will also put on makeup, don't forget it. I can't forget it. Song Jin smiled lightly. I am afraid of losing money when I give things to others. I am still as short-sighted as I was in my previous life. Look what sister said, Xiu was just joking with you, don't take it seriously. Song Xiu quickly made amends. Song Jin smiled and said nothing. Song Xiu turned to greet several elders of the Qin family, talking and laughing, quite intent on seizing the limelight. Song Jin was not relieved. In this life, she would get along with the Qin family just like Song Xiu, as long as she could look good. Wait until everyone is seated. As for the new daughter-in-law, the process of serving the elders is quite simple. She only needs to serve a bowl of thick rice porridge to each of her parents-in-law. Ordinary people don't have the conditions to be like the rich and powerful. They can't give their parents-in-law pickles with chopsticks, right? That picture is funny just thinking about it. Song Jin thought that there were a pair of ancestors above her parents-in-law, so she served porridge to old Qin first, and then it was old Lu's turn. Mrs. Lu was furious when she saw Song Jin and was ready to cause trouble, Dalang's wife. Why don't you make pasta today? My old lady doesn't like to drink this porridge. Old Qin slapped the table and said angrily, If you dare to be picky again, believe it or not, I will beat you to death. I've been shortchanged by you before. Old Mrs. Lu was scolded and mumbled a few times, unable to speak. Everyone present did not dare to say a word. Song Jin continued to serve porridge to Mr. Lu. But when it was being served, the spoon held by the little hand shook, and the rice porridge in the bowl became a little clearer when it was served. Qin Chi's mouth twitched slightly when he saw this, and he immediately looked away. End of chapter. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 6, the big family in the previous life was. Chapter 6, the big family in the previous life was miserable. Song Jin ignored old Lu's knife-like eyes and filled a large bowl of thick rice porridge for Boss Chin. Well, Boss Chin's dark face was full of a silly smile. Next to him is Mr. Lee. Ms. Lee has been ill for many years, and her son is also a sick child. There is a lot of gossip outside, but in fact she is a graceful beauty, as graceful as the wind blowing in the willows, and she has superb embroidery skills. Song Jin didn't have a deep impression of Lee. After the death of Chin Chi in the previous life, the Lee family was greatly hit. He passed away after staying in bed for a few months. Boss Chin disappeared not long after. Gradually word spread in the village that he had lost his wife and children. Unable to bear the blow, he went up the mountain to commit suicide. This family is so miserable and saddening. Song Jin carefully served Lee porridge. Mrs. Lee took off a gold and jade phoenix pattern bracelet from her wrist, put it on Song Jin's bright wrist, and said softly, "I hope you can live a good life with Dalong. If he dares to bully you, just come to Mother, and Mother will do it for you. Call the shots." "Thank you, Mother." Song Jin's cheeks felt slightly warm. Xiao Lu on the side said sourly, "Sister-in-law is so generous today. My sister-in-law wanted this bracelet when she got married, but you didn't give it to me. This is my grandmother's relic, and I asked it to be passed on to my daughter-in-law. Second brother and sister, why do you think I have the nerve to be a dowry for my sister-in-law? Isn't that a mess?" Lee's tone was gentle and half-joking, making it difficult for people to choose. Something went wrong. Xiao Lu choked when he heard this. Song Jin thought to herself that this mother-in-law was also very powerful. At least he's very talkative. Mr. Lu is not a bad person, but he loves to be picky and gossipy. Old Lu said with a black face, "The second brother's family, after breakfast, go and feed the pigs. Remember to clean the pig pen. Isn't this the job of the third younger brother and sister?" Xiao Lu was unconvinced and wanted to defend, but was pulled by Qin Lauer beside him. Xiao Lu stared back at her husband displeased. The young Lu family is very confident in this family, and this confidence comes from her mother's family and the old Lu family. Xiao Lu's biological father is the second cousin of the old Lu's mother's family and the head of the Lu family. When she was a girl, Xiao Lu was very favored. "I usually can't stand Mrs. Lee staying in the house all day and not doing any housework. Even if Lee's embroidery was sold, half of it would be handed over to the public school, but it didn't stop her from jumping around. In short, there is no one else who enjoys it even though he never gets any favors. Dalong, you will be an adult when you get married. From now on, you must be filial to your parents and give them a fat grandson as soon as possible." Qin Laosan smiled and blessed. Qin Chi responded with a smile, "Third uncle, I can do it." "Brother, what can you do?" Qin Erlang came over and winked at Qin Chi. Qin Chi was as steady as an old dog. "What's going to happen?" "Of course, let my parents have fun with their grandson as soon as possible." "Ha ha ha, what a boy, I really belong to you." Qin Laosan and others burst into laughter. Song Jin tried hard to keep smiling, but his ears were already slightly red. Only Song Xiu secretly mocked. "Want to hold a big fat boy? I'm afraid it's not a dream." In the previous life, Song Jin was not pregnant for 7 years after getting married, so Song Xiu dared to spread rumors to the old Lu family that she could not give birth. The entire hall was filled with laughter and laughter. Outside the door, a scholar wearing a Confucian turban and a ruffled shirt walked into the room calmly. This scholar has an outstanding figure, a handsome figure, and a strong scholarly air about him. At the same time, he also has the nobility of today's scholars. From the moment he stepped into the main room, he just glanced at him and said nothing, but people could clearly feel his carelessness and his indifference. "Seer." Old Lu stood up excitedly, put down his bowls and chopsticks, walked around the table and walked towards the visitor. "Seer came back so early, didn't he say he wouldn't get home until noon?" Old Qin was also surprised. "Coming back so early, I'm afraid I'll have to travel all night." Old Mrs. Lu took Qin Mingsong's arm, looked up and down with concern, and said distressedly, "Are you hungry, Seer? It's so dangerous to drive at night." Don't do this next time. Lao Nyang is worried. It's my son's fault. Qin Mingsong said warmly. Old Mrs. Lu smiled with her old face as big as a chrysanthemum. Among the 4 brothers of the Qin family, the first 3 are authentic rough country men. They are all powerful and good at work. When he arrived at Qin Mingsong's place, he had grown in reverse. His figure was slender and elegant, and his face was like a crown of jade. He was clearly a weak scholar, but he also had the pride of a scholar, which was quite unique. People who don't know his origin often mistakenly think that he is a noble son from a noble family. Song Jin just glanced at him lightly and then looked away. This look was extremely cold. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. Qin Mingsong looked quite arrogant just now. Qin Chi suddenly felt strange. He didn't notice it, really. But when I saw my brother-in-law, I couldn't bear it, and the scene of the sisters turning against each other directly came to my mind. Looking at Song Xiu's clearly excited but still pretending to be reserved attitude, this is a normal reaction for a woman to see her brother-in-law. There is something strange about these 2 sisters. I have never been to the Qin family before, but I seem to know the Qin family quite well. Qin Chi's mind was far away, but his facial expression did not change at all. Qin Chi noticed the subtle changes in the Song sisters, and Qin Mingsong also noticed them. He is particularly sensitive to human emotions. Qin Mingsong's eyes passed over Song Xiu and landed on Song Jin's fat face, and his mind was shaken for a moment. The woman did nothing, and the upbringing rules seemed to be engraved in her bones. She just sat there quietly, so beautiful and picturesque that it made people fascinated. This is probably the case with the stunning beauties described and praised in poems and songs throughout the ages. But for some reason, Qin Mingsong suddenly felt a strange sense of familiarity in his heart. However, he was sure that he had never met Song Jin. The next moment, Qin Chi stood up to meet Qin Mingsong, blocking Qin Mingsong's view of Song Jin. My uncle came back just in time to have breakfast. This is a meal that my wife honors her father and mother. Qin Chi chatted for a while, then kicked Erlang next to him, and scolded with a smile, "You boy with no eyesight, go and bring a stool for my uncle, and then go to the kitchen to get the dishes." Qin Mingsong subconsciously tightened his fingers and asked casually, "Is Delang getting married?" "Yes, unfortunately, I was ahead of my uncle." Qin Chi responded naturally. Before Qin Mingsong could speak, Qin Chi said briskly, "But it will be my uncle's turn soon." Qin Mingsong looked at Qin Chi suddenly, his eyes sharp for a moment. Song Jin sat aside. The uncle and nephew obviously just said a few common things, but she didn't know if it was her imagination, but she actually heard a hint of tit-for-tat. "That's right. We will have uncle's wedding banquet soon." When the elder man got married, my mother refused to prepare a banquet because she was running ahead of my uncle. Xiao Lu jumped out and said cheerfully, and got up to go to Song Song. Xiao said, "Brother-in-law, come and take a look, the bride is still a little beauty." Song Xiu was shy and timid, with a peach-like face, and came to Qin Mingsong half nudging him. Qin Mingsong's face darkened. When Song Xiu approached, he took a big step back. Qin Mingsong's avoidant attitude made Song Xiu's flowery smile froze. End of chapter. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 7, Qin Mingsong refuses marriage. Chapter 7 Qin Mingsong refuses marriage. Qin Mingsong received a letter from old man Qin's family. It was not detailed, but it still mentioned the engagement. Qin Mingsong, who had a sweetheart for a long time, wanted to rush home overnight to stop him, but the current situation was beyond his expectation. "Have you already moved into the Qin family?" Song Xiu lowered his head slightly and saluted, "I have met fourth brother Qin. My name is Song Xiu." Qin Mingsong returned the gift. Surrounded by old Lu and others, Qin Mingsong sat next to old Qin. Old man Qin had a serious look on his face. "You must be tired from the night journey. Let's have something to eat first and then go back to the room to rest. We will talk about the marriage later. We can discuss how many tables can be set up." As the child who the Qin family has high hopes for gets married, the treatment is different after all. No matter what, he would also set up a few tables to entertain the elders of the clan. Qin Ming Song looked at Song Xiu. Song Xiu bowed his head shyly, quite reserved. Qin Ming Song said seriously, "Dad, please forgive my son for not agreeing to this marriage. I will also attend the autumn festival next year, and I don't want people to laugh at the old cow eating young grass." Song Xiu's face turned pale. Song Jin was also surprised. In his previous life, Qin Ming Song didn't reject his marriage. What happened? Before old Qin said anything, Song Xiu spoke first. I'm 14. Song Xiu's big eyes seemed to be filled with water. When he looked at Qin Ming Song, he felt heartbreakingly aggrieved. He said, "Fourth brother Qin, am I not good enough? The beauty is in tears, and the pear blossoms are filled with rain." Song Xiu looked at old Qin with tears again, and said aggrievedly, "Uncle Qin, if the fourth brother doesn't want to, you don't have to force him. It's me. I'm not worthy of him." After saying this, the man ran away crying. The people present were shocked. Xiao Lu made a fuss, and then complained, "Brother-in-law, really, what's wrong with being 4 years younger? It's not like he's 40 years younger. Don't be careful when making excuses to refuse a kiss. This will make people cry. If you can't think about it for a moment, like what should I do if the big flower in the next village jumps into the river?" Song Jin quickly glanced at Xiao Lu. She is indeed the second aunt. He knows how to touch people's hearts. The tense atmosphere at the scene was controlled by Xiao Lu alone. The adults then looked at Song Jin. Song Jin was unexpectedly calm. It's not that Song Jin didn't miss Song Xiu's little trick of retreating in order to advance. But as a biological sister, Song Jin couldn't act too indifferent. No matter how much the sisters fight, it is ultimately their family's business. In the eyes of outsiders, they are always one. Song Jin must protect Song Embroidery. Otherwise, outsiders will think that she, a sister, has no regard for family ties. Not easy to deal with. You might even be looked down upon. Even if it was just to show off, Song Jin would defend Song Xiu at this time. Just like you are unkind, I cannot be unjust. So, Song Jin considered it and said, "Second aunt, don't worry. If my daughter's family is rejected in person, she will inevitably be embarrassed for a while. It's best not to disturb Xiu at this time and let her calm down." Song Xiu, thank you so much. If Song Jin said this, who would have the nerve to comfort her? Song Xiu's original intention was to make the Qin family feel guilty first, but also to show her magnanimity and understanding, and to seize a word of reason. Of course, doesn't Qin Ming Song call himself a gentleman? If you hurt an innocent girl, you are not allowed to apologize in front of Song Xiu. When they met in private, Song Xiu showed the woman's delicate and soft side, taking the opportunity to arouse Qin Ming Song's pity. Song Xiu learned a lot of tricks in Gulan Courtyard in his previous life. She was confident that she could win Qin Ming Song. However, Song Xiu's calculation was quite good, but Song Jin made such a start. "Uncle Qin." Song Jin spoke. Qin Chi promptly reminded, "Madam, it's time to change your name to grandfather." Song Jin nodded and then said solemnly, "Grandpa, although my father has made a marriage agreement with you, he is a reasonable person and will never force anyone to do anything. Since my uncle is not happy, this marriage will be cancelled and I will give her another one. Pick a match." "No." Old Lu suddenly jumped out, "I don't agree to cancel the engagement." This surprised Song Jin and others. Even Qin Ming Song's eyes widened in shock, seeing old Lu in disbelief. As the saying goes, the eldest grandson and the youngest son are the lifeblood of the elderly. The eldest grandson has been sick since he was a child. It's not that old Lu is harsh, but he is not very kind to Qin Chi. Therefore, Mrs. Lu has always had a strong preference for Qin Ming Song, and everything in the house is kept by him. This time Qin Ming Song wants to refuse the marriage, so it stands to reason that Mrs. Lu should be his helper. I can't believe that Mr. Lu would be the first to object. This is undoubtedly a huge blow to Qin Ming Song. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. Mom, why are you Qin Mingsong's face turned slightly pale, and veins appeared in his clenched fists. Old Lu's eyes dodged, not daring to meet Qin Mingsong's disappointed eyes. Just at this time, Qin Sanlang slipped out and came back again. He poked his head at the door and said, "I saw that my aunt ran back to my uncle's house and did not commit suicide." Qin Mingsong yelled, "Sanlang! Who taught you to call me aunt?" This shocked Saburo. Qin Chi's eyes flashed slightly, and he sat down next to Song Jin. "Don't be afraid, Sanlang. My uncle is an adult and won't argue with children." "That's right. What are you fussing over?" When Xiao Lu saw her son being frightened, she immediately became unhappy. "Brother-in-law, if you don't want such a good marriage, it's because you have a lover outside, right?" "That's not possible. Who will pay for the betrothal gift? There is no way for the elder man to get married. Spend a penny from your family." Cough cough cough. Qin Chi suddenly coughed violently. Song Jin's mind was pulled back by him, and without much thought she raised her hand and put it on his back. "Mr. Sir, are you okay? Why don't you drink some rice soup to help you feel better?" Qin Chi actually picked up the bowl and took a sip. "Second brother and sister, if you want to say that there is someone outside my brother-in-law, just say so. Stop talking about my elder brother, you will shock him." Ms. Li spoke unhurriedly. As soon as these words came out, the scene fell silent again. Everyone's eyes were turned to Qin Mingsong. Qin Mingsong frowned. "I don't have a good relationship, second sister-in-law, please be careful what you say." Song Jin knew it. Qin Mingsong will not admit that he has a sweetheart. Private betrothal is detrimental to reputation, especially when the man is engaged. Not only is the woman's innocence ruined, but the man's reputation is also ruined. If there is no engagement, Qin Mingsong can ask his elders to propose marriage. At this time, Qin Mingsong relied on his status as a scholar and did not want to argue with the woman. Just waiting for old Qin to speak. "This marriage will not change, don't worry about it," the husband's wife. Old man Qin said this to Song Jin. Song Jinfeng's eyes flickered. He said that breaking off the engagement was just a test, but old man Qin really didn't agree. Qin Mingsong looked at old Lu again. Old Mrs. Lu advised in a low voice, "Seer, I can't withdraw from this relationship. If anyone dares to spread rumors in the future, my mother will definitely seek justice for you." Song Xiu once said that the dowry was worth 1,000 taels of silver. This is 1,000 taels of silver. The old man was very good at making hui ink, but he only managed to save a fortune of 100 taels in decades. As long as Qin Mingsong marries Song Xiu, a large sum of money will directly enter the family's account. As for Qin Mingsong's thoughts, old Lu might have paid attention to them before, but now his greed has gone to his head. Letting her lose 1,000 taels of silver was more uncomfortable than ripping out her heart. "I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl." Chapter 8, I didn't spend a penny to marry you. Chapter 8, I didn't spend a penny to marry you. Mrs. Li didn't want to get involved in her brother-in-law's marriage, so she said, "I have one more pattern that I haven't finished yet, so I'm going back to my room first. De Lang is not feeling well, so he should go back early to rest." Boss Qin stood up immediately. Even the porridge they didn't finish was carried back to the room together. As soon as the two left, it was like a signal. One by one, they picked up the bowls in front of them and ran away looking for some lame excuse. Song Jin and Qin Chi followed the flow and went out. In the yard in front of the gate, Qin Lao Er and Qin Lao San were chatting in a low voice. In his previous life, Song Jin knew the 4 brothers of the Qin family. The first 3 had a very good relationship, but Qin Mingsong was an anomaly. He had been favored by his parents since he was a child, and his relationship with his brothers was the same. The 3 brothers were willing to support Qin Mingsong in his studies in the hope that he would be able to get a good name and be exempted from the corvée at home. Before Qin Mingsong passed the examination as a scholar, the 3 of them took turns to serve in the army every year. Every time he returns home from service, he is as thin as a refugee fleeing from famine, and it takes him a while to recover. In contrast, Qin Mingsong was having a great time. No matter how selfless the 3 brothers are, they will inevitably become estranged over time. Looking back on their previous lives, it seems that the three brothers did not get much credit from Qin Mingsong. When he was a junior in high school, old Qin suddenly proposed to separate the family. The two old men had been with Qin Mingsong, but they had to stay in the countryside. Then Song Jin, as his daughter-in-law, was legitimately left to serve his parents-in-law. In the end, she died, and neither of the two elders died. Song Jin asked softly, "Do you think Qin Mingsong will insist not to marry Song Xiu?" Qin Chi glanced sideways. "He will marry her." "Why?" "The orders of parents are the words of matchmakers." The reason given by Qin Chi was simple and clear. Disobedience to parents is considered unfilial. If you want to take the imperial examination and become a scholar, my brother-in-law will not dare. Song Jin understood. Qin Mingsong has a bright future and a long love for his children, and Qin Mingsong studied hard for 10 years, so there is no need to guess what choice he will make. In his previous life, didn't he also agree to marry her? What's on your mind? Qin Chi looked at it with unclear meaning. Song Jin raised his head and looked at the sky. What was he thinking? Naturally, I am remembering some things from my past life, but can I talk about this? I'm thinking, isn't Qin Mingsong the Qin family's hope for changing the family? My grandfather might really change his mind. Qin Chi looked unpredictable and pointed out, which scholar doesn't want to change his family, and how many of them have actually succeeded? My grandfather has seen the big world and is more pragmatic. This makes it clear that old man Qin has expectations for Qin Mingsong, but he is rational. Song Jin's eyes flashed after hearing this. Nothing more to say. Old man Qin was obviously looking forward to Qin Mingsong changing his family, but he agreed to marry the Song family. From the moment old man Qin agreed to get married, he had to bear certain risks. If he didn't do it right, he would be accused of covering up. Song Jin had a marriage certificate, which eliminated the hidden danger. Song Xiu did not. Yesterday, Song Jin asked old man Qin to apply for a marriage certificate. It was true that he asked Song Xiu to do it together, but old man Qin agreed to her offer and not to Song Xiu's. The reason is that Qin Mingsong has a reputation. At the same time, Qin Mingsong is also a celebrity in this area. Old man Qin said it was difficult to operate. The risk of exposure is said to be high. It is unclear whether this statement is true or not, but Song Jin believed it for the time being. Song Jin never thought about this in her previous life. After all, she was young. She didn't ask about some things, and old Qin wouldn't tell them either. The grievances and resentments of the previous life, who was right and who was wrong, it is actually difficult to sort out now that I think about it. Song Jin doesn't want to struggle anymore in this life. Because everything has changed since the marriage change. When Qin Chi dies of illness, she will become a widow, and widows can establish female households. After that, they will leave the Qin family after observing filial piety for a period of time, and they will not care about the rights and wrongs of the Qin family. If Song Xiu really gave up this family relationship, remarried someone else and then applied for a marriage certificate, maybe it would be a good thing. Then, Song Jin asked Qin Chi to go back to the room first, and she went to find Song Xiu. When they met, she got straight to the point and asked Song Xiu if he wanted to cancel the engagement, and she would choose a marriage for her. Song Jin bluntly said that Qin Mingsong was not a good match, and there might already be someone he liked. In response to this, Song Xiu not only was not grateful, but was almost furious. He said angrily, "Song Jin, you just don't want to see me, right? Who asked you to make your own decision to cancel the engagement for me? Did you get my consent?" "I disagree. In this life, she will never marry except Qin Mingsong. Qin Mingsong will become a high official in the future. Song Xiu is still waiting to become an official's wife." Song Xiu had never seen a better man than Qin Mingsong in his previous life, so why wasn't he a good match? Song Jin had nothing to do for 7 years in his previous life, and Qin Mingsong never divorced his wife or took concubines. He was praised by everyone as a loving and righteous man. Therefore, Song Xiu did not believe a word of Song Jin's good words. Song Jin didn't know what Song Xiu was thinking. If she knew it, it can only be said that Qin Ming Song concealed it so well in his previous life that even she found out accidentally, let alone an outsider. Song Xiu doubted again. You spread rumors about Qin Ming Song, it's not because you have a crush on him, right? Song Jin, don't forget, you are already married, so be a woman. When Song Jin heard this, anger welled up in his heart, and he wanted to help Song Xiu in time, so that he could at least earn his father's trust. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. The reality told her. There is nothing wrong with being kind, it also depends on who you are treating it with. There are some people who don't deserve it. Song Jin glanced at Song Xiu, as if looking at a stranger. Song Xiu, you have chosen this path yourself. I hope you will not regret it. After Song Jin finished speaking, he turned and left. Seeing Song Jin's indifferent eyes, Song Xiu felt a little flustered for no reason. Soon, Song Xiu was carried away by the joy of marrying Qin Ming Song. She didn't know what she did today, which consumed the last trace of Song Jin's friendship for her. Song Xiu didn't feel that Qin Ming Song's suggestion of breaking off the engagement would be successful. You should know that Qin Ming Song married Song Jin in his previous life. In order to achieve her goal, she even used money to bribe Old Lu. Facts have proved that Song Xiu's method is effective. Qin Ming Song's refusal to marry was just a minor incident. Old Qin did not agree, and Old Lu quickly organized the wedding banquet. After discussion, only 2 tables were finally settled. Children and women are not allowed on the table, so 2 tables are enough. Old Lu asked Qin Laosan to inform his 2 daughters. Old Qin went to invite the village chief and clan elders. In fact, if a marriage certificate is not issued, it cannot be said that the marriage is completely invalid. As long as the clan recognizes it and the village chief has the confidence, it is a matter of marriage. Most people in the village are like this. Can you say that their marriage is invalid? There are also hidden dangers. It mainly depends on what the government says, whether it is big or small. On the day when the Dong Chuang incident actually happens, it all depends on who has the biggest backer. Qin Chi excused himself because he felt unwell, and Song Jin used the excuse of staying in the house to take care of him instead of going outside to help. Are you envious? Qin Chi, who was flipping through the book, suddenly asked. Song Jin was stunned. What are you envious of? They gave a banquet, but you have nothing. As my second aunt said, I didn't spend a penny to marry you. Qin Chi kept these words in mind. Song Jin smiled and said, will you look down on me because of this? Won't. That's okay. End of chapter. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl. Chapter 9, Qin Chi's Betrothal Gift, The 4 Trees. Chapter 9 Qin Chi's Betrothal Gift, The 4 Treasures of the Study. Seeing Song Jin's indifferent attitude, Qin Chi felt quite upset for some reason. After standing up, Qin Chi walked to the bookshelf, brought a stool and stepped on it, and took out 4 wooden boxes from the top of the bookshelf. Placed them one by one in front of Song Jin. Qin Chi said seriously, this is the betrothal gift I gave you. Don't mention it again in the future. I didn't spend a penny to marry you. Song Jin didn't expect Qin Chi to mind this sentence so much. Look at the things in front of you, commonly known as the 4 treasures of the study: pen, ink, paper and inkstone. Hui ink, Shi inkstone, Zhuge's pen, Chengsentang paper. Song Jin was slightly stunned. For a moment, I was speechless. If these appeared in the study rooms of princes, nobles or wealthy people, Song Jin would not be surprised. He just happened to show up at the Qin family. Appeared in an ordinary farmhouse in Shanggugu. Kinjiagu is close to the mountains. This mountain was called Ishan in ancient times and is said to be the Yellow Emperor's alchemy furnace. In the Tang dynasty, poets such as Li Bai and Bai Ji visited and praised it. In the Song dynasty, it was renamed Huangshan and became a Taoist holy land. There are many records about Huangshan in the past dynasties, and there are countless poems and songs praised by literati. And here are the 4 treasures. That is to say, Qin Chi took out the 4 treasures of his study: Hui ink, Shi inkstone, Zhuge's pen, and Chengsentang paper. As the saying goes, gold is easy to get, but Li Mo is hard to find. 1 ounce of gold and 1 ounce of ink refers to Hui Mo. Shi ink stone is as famous as Duan ink stone. Its stone quality is tough, its texture is meticulous, its ink is thick, its water storage is not dry, its carving is exquisite and its shape is unique. It has been highly praised by celebrities in the past dynasties, so it is famous all over the world. And Zhuge's pen is Wang Boli's pen. During the Northern Song dynasty, Wang Boli founded the 4 Treasures Hall, which produced all 4 treasures in his study, and he was especially famous for his pens. Chengsen Tang paper is imperial paper. This paper was first made in the Southern Tang dynasty. It is one of the 3 treasures of the study of the Southern Tang dynasty. It is rated as the best paper in the history of papermaking. It is famous for its skin-like egg membrane, as hard and clean as jade, thin and smooth. During the annual tribute, the 4 treasures of the study in Shady are indispensable treasures in the annual tribute, and are deeply loved by the court and famous people. Song Jin said, "These are worth at least 1,000 taels if sold." Qin Chi raised his eyebrows, "Do you only think about money?" Song Jin looked at him suspiciously, with a questioning look in his eyes. The reason is that these were all made by Qin Chi himself, and most of the materials used were obtained from his visit to Huangshan. The 4 items in front of him are the best treasures he left behind. For him, this is priceless. Song Jin smiled brightly and carefully brought the 4 treasures in front of her. "Then I am disrespectful of this betrothal gift." Qin Chi looked at her with a smile. After it was folded properly, Song Jin solemnly promised, "Ms., next time the second aunt says that you didn't spend a penny on your wife, I will definitely tell her the truth." Qin Chi. Can he regret it? Tuck tuck. There was a knock on the door. Li's voice sounded outside the door, "The Lang, my aunt and my aunt are here, you two come out and recognize each other." "Okay mother." Qin Chi agreed and looked at Song Jin again. "There is a banquet at home today." It was normal for relatives to come over. Song Jin had dealt with these 2 people in his previous life, and the same rice could support all kinds of people. Song Jin didn't want to comment on them. In the previous life, Song Jin had been married to the Qin family for 7 years and had nothing to do. These 2 danced the most happily. They often persuaded Qin Mingsong to divorce his wife and marry another woman. They were also frowning upon Song Jin and did not have a good face. On the way out, Song Jin saw Qin Mingsong toasting the elders of the clan, acting modestly and politely. Song Xiu wore her hair in a woman's bun and followed Qin Mingsong like a well-behaved little daughter-in-law. Qin Chi and Song Jin came out. Following Qin Chi, Song Jin advanced and retreated in a controlled manner. People who came to Qin's house originally thought that Qin Mingsong was lucky and married a pretty young lady. When they saw Song Jinji, they realized that they had just been superficial. This one is even prettier. It's so beautiful that they can't describe it. Old man Qin's ancestral graves are well buried, and each of the young ladies he married is more beautiful than the last. A baby born this way will definitely look good. Hearing the discussion, Song Xiu glanced at Song Jin from time to time, unable to hide his pride and a sense of superiority in controlling the future. Qin Chi leaned close to Song Jin's ear and reminded softly, "The way my aunt looks at you is wrong, as if she knows you are going to be unlucky. What do you think it will be?" Song Jin died speechless. Song Xiu thought he had hidden his little thoughts well. The result is noticeable at a glance. Song Jin seemed to be considering it seriously and replied, "Maybe, because I married you." Qin Chi was choked. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. But his face was still very calm, and he didn't show any emotion. Qin Chi originally wanted to test a few words. Song Jin's answer made him uncomfortable. In fact, these 2 sisters are quite interesting. They brought him a lot of fun in just 2 or 3 days. The 2 of them were whispering at a distance, but in the eyes of others, their behavior was very close. Song Xiu was happy to see the success. The better the relationship between Song Jin and Qin Chi, the more painful it will be when Qin Chi dies. In the previous life, Qin Chi and Song Xiu got married in name only. Qin Chi either lived in the academy or went home to share a room with several children in the second room. Not to mention that they had not consummated their marriage, they had never met each other a few times. Therefore, Qin Chi's death was not painful to Song Xiu. What really made her hate it were the vicious rumors outside. Call her a naughty wife, call her a broom star. Qin Chi was killed, and Li Shi was defeated. She even caused Boss Qin to disappear. What Song Xiu wants to see most now is for Song Jin to have a taste of her previous life. I had previously doubted whether Song Jin had the same memories of his previous life as himself. Song Xiu doesn't think so now. Not only did Song Jin agree to the marriage change, but not only was she close to Qin Chi, but it was not unusual for Qin Mingsong to marry her. You must know that Qin Mingsong and Song Jin have been married for several years and have never had a quarrel. You can imagine how good their relationship is. This is all going as she hoped. After the toast, Song Xiu came to Song Jin and whispered, "Sister, you haven't put on my makeup yet. What do you need? Whether I'm good or not, what does it have to do with whether my sister will give or not?" Song Jin admired Song Xiu's thick skin. "There was such a quarrel yesterday, but today I can act like a normal person, smile and come over to ask her for gifts." Maybe he didn't take her words seriously. I think so. Song Xiu was so noisy in her previous life, but Song Jin never gave up on her and often cleaned up her messes. Maybe he was feeling confident. Song Jin returned to the room in silence. Pick out a beaded flower headdress from the box and go find Song Xiu. Song Xiu had already returned to her new house. When someone came in, she thought it was Qin Mingsong and was about to put on her best posture. The first thing I saw was Song Jin. Song Xiu pouted, "Why is it you?" "A wedding gift." Song Jin handed the pearl flower headdress to Song Xiu. Song Xiu sneered, "Sister, have you become so stingy just after becoming a peasant woman? This is not as expensive as what I gave you. Don't want it? That saves you money." Song Jin was about to take back his hand, but Song Xiu snatched it away. "The pearls on this are worth a few taels." After the congratulatory gifts were sent, Song Jin turned around and went out. As soon as he reached the door, he saw Qin Mingsong coming in smelling of alcohol. "There is only one chapter left to be updated tomorrow. I made a fortune by marrying a sick girl." Chapter 10, Spreading Rumors to Cause Trouble. Chapter 10, Spreading Rumors and Causing Trouble. Seeing Song Jin suddenly, Qin Mingsong's heart tightened and his eyes narrowed slightly. "It's you, your name is Song Jin. I heard you were supposed to be mine. You are engaged to me." Drunk and emboldened, Qin Mingsong stood in front of Song Jin and stared at her condescendingly, with that familiar arrogant look, like looking at an insignificant ant. Song Jin stood aside. He originally gave way to his position, but Qin Mingsong did not move. Instead, he took half a step closer to Song Jin and sneered, "You hooked up with Qin Chi when you first arrived at Qin's house, and let others catch you. Afterwards, you made a fuss about changing marriages. I blame my sister harshly and disrespect my elders. Fortunately, I, Qin Mingsong, did not marry a woman like you." Song Jin was confused when he heard this. Is he crazy or suffering from hysteria? Song Xiu, who had just greeted him, felt guilty when he heard this. He quickly stepped forward to support Qin Mingsong and said, "Fourth brother, why are you standing at the door? You must be tired today. Come in and lie down for a while. Sister, help me go to the kitchen and ask someone to help me. Make a bowl of hangover soup." Song Xiu inserted her body between Qin Mingsong and Song Jin, pulled Qin Mingsong into the room, then turned around and pushed Song Jin out of the door. "Don't forget to close the door." Song Jin saw Song Xiu like this. "What else don't you understand? Isn't it what Song Xiu often does to confuse right and wrong?" At this moment, Song Jin laughed angrily. Yesterday, she wanted to maintain the dignity of the Song family and not break up with Song Xiu in front of others. Now that she thinks about it, it's ridiculous. Every time she thought she knew Song Xiu well enough, she would still refresh her understanding of Song Xiu's shamelessness next time. Song Xiu. Song Xiu, get out of here. Song Jin knocked on the door vigorously. Just after 2 pats, Qin Chi slowly approached, covered his lips with his sleeve and asked, "What's the matter, madam?" Ahem. When coughing, Qin Chi looked behind Song Jin pretending to be unintentional. Song Jin understood immediately. Turning around, I saw that Xiao Lu, Mrs. Lin and others were clearing away the dishes, tables and chairs in the yard, and they all looked over curiously. The banquet has ended and the guests have gone back. However, Aunt Qin and Aunt Qin stayed, saying that they would go back after breakfast tomorrow. Song Jin restrained his anger and deliberately said loudly, "It's nothing. Song Xiu asked me to go to the kitchen to talk about making sobering soup. It's not that fast to make sobering soup. You can just serve a bowl of tea first." Qin Chi's considerate advice. Song Jin thought about it and decided to do it. It was just that Song Jin brought tea and asked Qin Chi to knock on the door. When Song Xiu opened the door, Song Jin quickly went in and then threw a bowl of tea at Song Xiu. "It's fun to spread rumors, right? If I don't beat you to death today, my last name will be Song." Song Jin was so angry that he grabbed Song Xiu and beat him. Qin Chi wanted to remind him. "Madam, her surname is Song." Seeing Song Jinsheng beating people violently, Qin Chi refreshed his understanding. At least he felt that Song Jin was like the moon in the sky, unreachable. She is a beauty that can only be seen from a distance. Who is going to tell him now that a little lady can roll up her sleeves and hit someone? This is so inelegant. But, so cute. No longer as lifeless as the previous 2 days, the whole person suddenly became much more alive. "What are you doing? Stop it." Mrs. Lu came out of the kitchen with a bowl of hangover soup in her hand. "Daughter-in-law, please stop it." Song Jin was so angry that he didn't care who Mr. Lu was. Song Xiu was crying and unable to fight back. His hair was messy and he was in a mess. Old Lu said angrily, "What are you doing standing aside, Mr. Heir's family? Why don't you go and pull people away?" "Mother, how do you pull this?" Xiao Lu muttered, but she started to pull the person. When she reached out to Song Jinji, Qin Chi finally stopped pretending to be dead. "Second aunt, you go grab my little aunt, and I'll grab my wife." Qin Chi coughed twice and went to grab Song Jin weakly. There is Xiao Lu dragging Song Xiu, and Qin Chi mainly plays the character of a sick man. It is normal for him to be unable to hold his wife. Song Jin fights more smoothly. "Aw, it hurts." Song Xiu screamed in pain, not caring about maintaining her soft and delicate image. "Song Jin, that's enough. Didn't I just say a few words to you? Are you saying a few words?" Song Jin was so angry that she slapped Song Xiu on the forehead. "You are confusing right and wrong, fabricating rumors, and turning black into white. Song Xiu, do you really think that I dare not beat you? I have long wanted to beat up Song Xiu." Song Jin was beaten very happily and finally took the opportunity to vent the anger he had been holding in for the past 2 days. Check out the 16:9 book bar and see the correct version. When Song Xiu looked at her with that superior look just now, Song Jin wanted to slap her. After all, after living a lifetime, who hasn't lost his temper? Old man Qin hurried over and shouted loudly, "What are you doing? Stop it." Song Jin stopped now. Qin Chi pulled her away from Song Xiu, quietly put down her rolled-up sleeves, and said anxiously, "Madam, is my aunt bullying you? Is there any injury?" "No, I'm angry." Song Jin returned to his usual calm self-reliance. "Grandpa, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but teach my concubine a lesson, lest she cause trouble for our Qin family in the future." Old Qin's face was expressionless. When facing Song Jin, even though she called her grandfather, Old man Qin never really regarded her as an ordinary grandson-in-law. No matter how depressed the Song family is, the Qin family cannot be bullied by other farmers. Old Qin knows this better than anyone else. The Song family has been operating in Huizhou for hundreds of years and is deeply rooted. Even when the government ransacked his house, he was able to send away Song Jin and Song Xiu, which shows his connections and heritage. What's more, even if the tree falls and most of the people are gone, there will always be a few wealthy relatives. If this is used well, it will be a great help to the Qin family. Old man Qin originally wanted his legitimate son Song Jin to marry Qin Mingsong. It's a pity that Song Xiu messed up. Old man Qin said, "Let me tell you what's going on, Dalong's wife." This. Song Jin glanced around. The entire Qin family was present, including 2 sisters-in-law who had married outside. Song Jin was about to speak. "Sister." Song Xiu hurriedly yelled, not giving Song Jin a chance to speak. She cried and explained quickly, "It's nothing. It's our sisters who are joking. I don't blame my sister. Uncle Qin. No, father, please don't punish my sister, it's all my fault for making my sister angry. It's okay not to explain." As soon as Song Xiu explained, everyone looked at Song Jin with condemning eyes. It's as if the villain is Song Jin. After she finished speaking, Song Xiu suddenly trembled when she met Song Jin's increasingly cold gaze. This time it was really not Song Xiu who wanted to slander Song Jin through tea talk. She was more afraid than anyone else that Song Jin would reveal the truth. Old Qin had already suppressed the previous drugging incident, but yesterday when she saw Qin Mingsong, he paid attention to Song Jin. Song Xiu panicked, and when her head got hot, she made a private appointment with Qin Mingsong to throw dirty water on Song Jin. I regretted it afterwards. But I was lucky, I didn't expect Song Jin to know about it so soon. So Song Xiu became even more panicked. No, I really don't blame my sister for this. Song Xiu was so anxious that she rushed towards Song Jin, hugged her thigh and knelt down, crying and begging, "Sister, I was wrong, I was really wrong, you can hit me or kill me, please don't. Don't say it." Song Jin didn't wipe for a moment and was hugged upright. He almost lost his balance and fell back. Qin Chi helped him from behind in time. End of chapter.